He's the host of the Drilldown podcast. Both of them are Peter Schweizer and Eric Eggers, Government Accountability Institute. And by the way, Peter's new book, BloodMoney, Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China Kills Americans. Welcome both of you back to the program.
Thanks, Sean, for having us. Appreciate it.
Let's start with you, Peter, and let's start with the 51 intel agents. But more important than that, it's big tech, Joe Biden himself, the intel community overall, the Democratic Party overall, and the media mob overall. They all lied completely because that laptop is very real, or else it wouldn't have been introduced into evidence by the DOJ, would it?
That's right. And, Sean, here's the thing. There was absolutely a massive disinformation campaign going on in 2020, but it wasn't a Russian disinformation campaign. And, of course, Russia does those. There's no denying that. But in this case, that's not what was going on. This was a disinformation campaign organized by the Biden campaign. Tony Blinken, of course, put together that list of 50-plus intel officials, but it included elements of our intelligence community. You played in that sound clip, the KGB and sort of Soviet tradecraft. Well, they employed that. U.S. intelligence officials employed that in this particular case. And here, I think the thing, Sean, that is so stunning to me is, you've been in the news business for a long time. If you had a source that came to you and told you something several times that was a lie, that was not accurate, if that source came to you again, you would call them out on it. Well, the mainstream
100%.
Yeah, I mean, the mainstream media has lied to repeat.
Well, look at the FBI vouching for not just Christopher Steele, but then vouching for this guy Smirnoff, and in both cases, they said these, in some cases, in the case of Smirnoff, they paid the guy for 10 years, over 10 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Ray himself vouched for the guy. They vouch for Christopher Steele and then, oh, never mind. Really? How could they get it so wrong?
Yeah, they get it wrong and they cover it up. And again, the purpose of an actual functioning media, mainstream media, should be, hey, you know what? You've lied to us repeatedly about these things. We're going to not only call you out for your lies, but we're going to be extremely skeptical of anything you tell us going forward. That has not been the posture of the media. None of the media has gone out and corrected the stories they've run. None of them have become skeptical of what they're told by the Biden team. So as we continue to go forward on these Biden scandals and on the entanglements of Joe Biden in these scandals, it's really going to be incumbent upon the mainstream media to actually do their job. It's kind of like spousal abuse. They're essentially taking this behavior from the Bidens and from the intelligence community, and as they continue to get abused, they will not call them out. And of course, I don't expect them to do so. That to me is the most troubling aspect of all of this, Sean. We do not have an independent media that is prepared to actually stand up to the D.C. establishment and the Biden team.
Let's get your take on all of this, Eric Eggers. And, in many ways, I've said from the beginning, I didn't think the House Republican impeachment inquiry would likely end in impeachment because of the slim majority Republicans have. They were down to one. I think they're now back up to a 2-vote majority. However, criminal referrals could hold over into the next administration should Donald Trump be elected in a mere 147 days.
Well, far be it from me to disagree with my boss and the co-host of the podcast, Peter Schweizer, but I think that we will see...
Just do what Linda does. She never sucks up to her boss, ever.
That's the business model I'm absolutely trying to embody, and I think I'm doing an okay job of it. But I think Peter's he's right that the media needs to do a better job, but I think that we will see the media do a better job. I mean, you mentioned this Politico piece. I'm looking at an honest-to-God org chart now of the Biden business model. We could have had this 4 years ago because this is just based off of the Hunter Biden laptop. I guess we've decided now it's okay to use the information because we don't have to pretend like it's some big Russian hoax. But why is the media now willing to do their job? It's because Donald Trump's been convicted 34 times. Like, now it's safe and it's okay to actually come out and tell the truth about why Joe Biden's so bad. And, you know, as I was telling Peter earlier, it's like the Bidens are masters of exploiting these expectations game. Hunter Biden's people could say, oh, no, it's not that he was illegally obtaining a firearm. He's just a drug addict and sympathetic, and we should take pity on him. That's their legal strategy to get out of this case. So you're absolutely right that the House needs to do the job that the media didn't do for 4 years. And so if there's one thing to be excited about or maybe briefly optimistic about, it's that with the information that the House is forcing to enter the public discourse, the media now, because of what's happened to Donald Trump, may feel like it's safer to do that. And combine that with a public that thinks so clearly that we have a two-tiered system of justice where one side gets away with everything and the other side sees everyone in the orbit face the harshest possible penalties. Maybe then the American people will finally have their day come November.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Final thought from Peter Schweizer, Eric Eggers on the other side. Then your call's coming up. 800-941-SEAN is our number as we continue. All right, our final thought and question from Peter Schweizer, Eric Eggers, both with the Government Accountability Institute. I've always gone back to the issue of Joe's big lie. I never once, Peter, spoke to my son, my brother, or anybody for that matter about their foreign business deals. You know, now that you have Politico, they're only 6 years late from your initial book that exposed a lot of this. And a lot of it comes down, and I think a lot of it is embodied in the whole Burisma deal. Hunter says on Good Morning America he has no experience in energy, oil, gas, coal, or Ukraine. Now we know he admits at the time he was addicted to crack cocaine. And he's making millions. And then you got the timeline where the Obama administration signs off on this loan guarantee in October 2015. The alleged call that took place with Burisma executives and Hunter from Dubai with Joe days before he goes and leverages the $1 billion. And son of a bee, they fire him and Hunter continues to get paid with no experience. How is that not anything else but a real quid pro quo?
Yeah, no, look, Sean, I mean, you've been saying this since 2018 when we first talked about this. The Bidens have never answered the question, partly because it's never been asked by the mainstream media. What did you get paid tens of millions of dollars for? From Burisma, from China, from Russia? What did you actually do for the money? Because guess what? These foreign oligarchs, these foreign businessmen tied to governments, they're not in the habit of just passing out money for fun. They actually want something in return, and they've never given a plausible explanation for it. And we know why. We know why. It's because who Joe Biden was, Vice President of the United States, now President of the United States. And, you know, when Hunter was asked by the Congressional Committee to explain a $1 million payment from a Chinese businessman, he said it was seed money.
Hang on one second. So I got to take a break here. I'm on a hard break. When I come back, I'll ask you one final question each, and that is, you know, how is this all going to end? Because so many of my people listen to this show just throw their hands up and saying Democrats get away with everything. I want to ask you both if you think that'll happen. All right, we continue. Final thoughts. Peter Schweizer, Eric Eggers with the Government Accountability Institute. Don't forget Peter's new book, bestseller, #1 on the New York Times list, BloodMoney, Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China Kills Americans. Okay, so we've got the Hunter trial. And Eric, we'll let you go first. And then we have the Biden family lies and the House GOP making criminal referrals for both James and Hunter Biden. I would imagine if Joe Biden loses the election when he's out of office, probably one with his name on it may not be far behind. We'll see. What is your prediction now? What happens here?
So I go back to something that we saw in the crosstabs of that New York Times Siena poll that I think came out last year. And it said that if Americans believed that Joe Biden personally profited off of Hunter Biden's business deals, then that would sway the election by any factor more than anything else. And that was true in all the 5 swing states. And I think that's where this Hunter sham trial is so significant, because the stakes are so small. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we want to see people held to account for justice. But if he was a drug addict when he signed a form, that to me as an American is far less consequential than if he leveraged his father's position as vice president of the United States to make he and his family money while weakening American national security. That's what this has always been about, and that's what I think the American people get. So I think the House Oversight Committee, once this trial is over and done with, they see those stakes. They see what the left is willing to do to Donald Trump and people in his orbit. And I think it resonates in a way that even Joe Biden's illegal leveraging of the federal government to register Democrat voters won't be able to overcome. So I think it makes a very big difference in November.
Well, remember the initial plan A was no charges by David Weiss at all. Plan B was after the IRS whistleblowers, and that was the sweetheart deal. And thankfully, a judge actually read it and said the judge had never seen a deal as sweet as that in the entire time she'd been on the bench. Even the defense attorney had to admit that for Hunter Biden. But I tend to agree with Eric. As important as this is and the need for justice is that real, I think this is the lowest hanging fruit as it relates to the Biden family businesses and the lies that Joe told and his absolute involvement in making money and seemingly offering no services at all whatsoever except their name. Final word, Peter, what happens?
Yes, I think that in this particular case, I think he's going to be found guilty. But I agree with you. I mean, imagine somebody who robs a bank and then gets pulled over for a speeding ticket when they're leaving the bank with all the cash in the back. That's kind of what this case represents. That's why I think, if Trump wins in November, number one priority needs to be cleaning house at the Department of Justice. And I would argue that the choice of Trump's running mate is important, but the choice for Attorney General is even more important.
Any names you recommend?
I think Ron DeSantis would be great. He's a lawyer. He fights in the bureaucracy very, very well in the state of Florida. I think he has a reform agenda. I think Ron DeSantis would be a great Attorney General.
I don't know if he'd be willing to give up his role as governor, but I think he would be good. I don't disagree at all. Anyway, guys, I appreciate it. Government Accountability Institute, and we have Peter's book on Hannity.com, Amazon.com, bookstores around the country. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.